والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تمسك بسنته إلى يوم الدين وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد. We continue 7:14 p.m. Friday, January the 18th, 2019, which now is in Jumad al-Ula in the Hijri. Jumad al-Ula, the 11th, or the 12th night, if you want to say, or the 12th night of Jumad al-Ula, 1440 after the Hijrah Mustafa alayhi salatu wassalam. We continue in the chapter of Bab ma ja'a anna sabba kufri bani Adam wa tarkihim dinahum hul ghulubu fi salihin. The chapter which comes in the reason for the disbelief of the children of Adam and them leaving off their religion is extremism in regards to the righteous. As we explain in the text, when the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if everyone looks in their books, it says, "I warn you of extremism." He said, "For verily what destroys you from the past is extremism." We were talking about how extremism breaks down into different types. Extremism is in different types. For we said that at the head of all extremism is extremism in the affair of belief, of aqidah, of creed. The extremism in the affair of creed is of different types. We gave an example of that last class, of how you'll find that the most dangerous of extremism is in regards to the foundation of the creed of the Muslim. Even all the shara'i', all the different legislations from what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed in the past, especially with the Jews and the Christians, of how they were destroyed. And we said that when the message of Allah, we said this last class, that when the message of Allah said that the result of extremism is destruction, is to let one know how impermissible it is and the magnitude of this matter. So what happened with the Christians and from the people of the book of the past, they went to the extremes in the affairs of aqidah, in the aspect of i'tiqad, by raising certain individuals above their level, taking the prophets and the messengers who do deserve respect and reverence and raising them to the level of deities, as that is a form of extremism which destroyed them in the affair of their religion. It also led to affairs of destruction with their people, of this type of extremism, because they became divided into different sects and schisms, to the point where they started killing one another based upon this type of belief, or extremism in belief. And similar to that is the Muslims, who have become divided in the affairs of creed, not being unified in the foundations of the religion. And from those who deviated in the foundation, from the deviant sects there are, such as we know as the past, the Mu'tazila, the Jahmiyyah, and likewise the Asha'ira of today, who the majority of the Muslim world today is comprised of, being from the followers of Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari, even though that's not the truth. They claim and they associate or affiliate themselves with Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari, but in reality they are not following Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari, even though they call themselves Asha'ira. But the majority of the Muslim world have the belief system of the Asha'ira, even though in reality they're not the Asha'ira, they are the Kullabiyah. As we'll discuss later on, how Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari he passed by 3 stages. Before, the last stage is when he returned back to the Aqeedah of Ahl Sunnah. A lot of people don't know that, or some people know that. That Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari, my head itch. Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari passed by, what happened to him in his life, he went through 3 stages. Number 1, don't write this down. Don't write it down. Don't worry, all this will come soon. It will come in its proper time. Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari, he passed, if you want to say, 3 stages. The first stage was he was with the Mu'tazila. He was with the Mu'tazila for a long time. I think of about 40 years. Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari was with the Mu'tazila due to the fact of his stepfather was married to his mother. His stepfather was Ali al-Jubba'i. It was his stepfather. His mother married a man named Ali al-Jubba'i, which is his stepfather. Am I right? His stepfather? Yeah, I'm right. Not father-in-law. Father-in-law is from marriage from your mother. No, his stepfather. His stepfather's name Ali al-Jubba'i. Ali al-Jubba'i was Mu'tazili. At any rate, just to make a long story short, Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari, after he left the belief of the Mu'tazila, then he embarked upon the belief system of Muhammad ibn Kullab. Muhammad ibn Kullab, which is known as the Kullabiyya, because they were from the followers of Muhammad ibn Kullab. Muhammad ibn Kullab was the second stage of Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari. That was the second stage that he embarked upon. Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari, the very belief that the followers of the Asha'ira of today follow Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari in the second stage of his life when he was what? With Muhammad ibn Kullab. So everything they believe go back to what? To Muhammad ibn Kullab, where the actual association affiliation is called the Kullabiyya, because they're from the followers of Muhammad ibn Kullab. That is the majority of the Muslim world who claim that they associate or connect themselves with the Asha'ira. They're not following Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari. They're following Muhammad ibn Kullab. But they don't realize it. Because a man is known for what is the last thing he called to, what he was upon. That was the third stage. So the third stage, ya ma'ashal ikhwa, is when he made tawbah and returned back to Ahl Sunnah. As we know, Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari made tawbah from the beliefs that he was upon, or the deviant ideologies and creed he was upon. And he made it clear until he wrote books and he announced it on the minbar, and he made his tawbah clear as the sun in the sky. He announced it on the minbar to the point where some of the narration says that I relieve myself of the belief of the Kullabiyya, of course. Just like I take off the shirt of mine or the stobe of mine, I think it was some type of cloth or garment he had, and he took it off to show that he relieved or he freed himself from those belief systems. But at any rate, what happened to Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari first was with the Mu'tazila, then the Kullabiyya. And that was the ideologies he was upon. So based upon that period, what happened was Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari, a lot of people don't know, he was ascribed, his family returned to Abu Musa, who? Muhammad ibn Qais, Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, the great Sahabi. If you find in his lineage, it goes back to the great Sahabi, Abu Musa al-Ash'ari. Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari was in the same family. Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari was known to also have a very sharp tongue in regards to establishing a proof against the one who's mukhalif, the one who's in opposition, or someone who wanted to argue. They said Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari was very sharp with his tongue and establishing proof. He was very sharp. So one day there was a debate between him and his sheikh Muhammad Kullab, until his hujjah or his argument, his proofs demolished Muhammad Kullab. And as a result of it, all the followers of Muhammad Kullab became his what? His followers. His followers. So the stage of the Kullabiyya, what they so-called want to say that the followers of the Asha'ira of today in the Muslim world are followers of Muhammad Kullab when Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari was with him, and at the same time he dominated him, and his followers became his followers, meaning Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari. So he remained upon those ideologies for a time, which he adopted from Muhammad Kullab, and he started his own group for a period of time. Then after that, that's when he made Tawbah. And he made Tawbah in a book called Al-Ibana fi Usul al-Diyana. You guys got me sidetracked. I don't want to get inside this. Leave this to the side. But at any rate, the majority of Sha'ira are people of what? The Asha'ira are followers of Muhammad al-Kullab. That's what they believe. Because like we said, Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari, what he died upon was the aqeedah of Ahl Sunnah. It was not the aqeedah of Muhammad al-Kullab, or during that duration where he took all of his followers away from him. So a lot of the Asha'ira, they ascribe themselves to Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari during that second period, or that time frame, when he was with Muhammad al-Kullab, and he dominated his sheikh and took his followers away from him. And what they do is they try to now even discredit or even cut off. They say that that book called Al-Ibana fi Usul al-Diyana, they said it's suspect in regards to it being ascribed to Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari, which is absolute nonsense, which I'll discuss later. Because some of them, because we know Al-Ibana fi Usul al-Diyana by Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari destroys the belief system of the Asha'ira in the Muslim world today. That's the reason why that the heads of the Asha'ira in the Muslim world tried to what? Cast doubt in its followers about it being ascribed to him. Because they know that that book destroys their what? What they're upon. Because Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari clarifies in that book that was the last thing that he what? He died upon. Was the correct creed of Ahl Sunnah. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? That's why you'll find that the Mashayikh, especially from the great A'imma of these days, whose name was Sheikh Hamad al-Ansari, rahimahullah, that they called him Sheikh al-Shuyukh or Sheikh al-Mashayikh, Sheikh Hamad al-Ansari, rahimahullah, who's from Mali. He migrated to Al-Madinah, and he's a sheikh of a lot of the ulama we know of today. Of Sheikh he's from the Mashayikh of, man, you can start counting. They call him the Sheikh of the Mashayikh, Sheikh Hamad al-Ansari, rahimahullah. You can find and say that he was the Sheikh of Sheikh bin Baz, or from the, I would say that they were from their comrades, but they all called him that he was the Sheikh of all the Mashayikh. From, oh man, you're going to sidetrack me in that. But at any rate, Sheikh Hamad al-Ansari, rahimahullah, wrote in his book, and he wrote in his books of today, saying a key point, just to keep everything summarized. He said that the Asha'ira should not call the Asha'ira. They should be called the Kullabiyya. They should be called the Kullabiyya because they're following Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari when he was with who? Muhammad al-Kullab. That's the point. If you guys understand that point, you understand the whole why I'm mentioning this. The whole point of why I'm mentioning this. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? If you understand that point, khalas, done. So the followers of Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari are not actually followers of Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari, even though they call themselves Asha'ira of today. They actually should be called Kullabiyya. Kullabiyya. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? But at any rate, the point why I was saying this is because they went into the extremes in the affairs and deviation and the aspect of creed. Where you'll find, like we said, they have a lot of different notions that are very wicked. The Asha'ira and the Maturidiyya. That's another deviant sect in the Muslim world today, which I don't have time to talk about who the man who's the head of the Maturidiyya is. At any rate, the majority of the Muslim world consists of, you'll find, of the Asha'ira, of course of Sufiya, no doubt, but you'll find that a lot of the Sufis, especially from the different tariqas that are out there, they all are grave worshippers, and they have the creed of of so-called Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari. They have the creed of the Asha'ira. A lot of them. You'll find that a lot of Sufis do adopt this creed and this belief in a lot of the Muslim countries and in a lot of the Muslim world. And likewise, those from the Muslim world who have a famous deviant creed called the Maturidiyya. The Maturidiyya. The Maturidiyya is also from those different types of deviant sects that went into the extremes in the affairs of Aqidah. Just listen to me. Don't try to figure it out. They're called the Maturidiyya. The majority of the Muslim world who are upon the creed of Maturidiyya are blind followers of the madhab of Abu Hanifa. They would call themselves blind followers of the Hanafi madhab. Usually those who are blind followers of the Hanafi madhab are Maturidi. Don't talk, well, just leave that to the side. But at any rate, I'm throwing that out there just to benefit some of the brothers and sisters, to let them know of the different types of belief systems that are deviated, where they went into the extremes, where they deviated from the affair of Ahl Sunnah. Where those ideologies or those principles that I taught everyone last class, that's exactly what they do. If you look in your books in the chart that I told everyone to write, you'll find that they deviated and went to the extreme in what? They went to the extreme of resemblance, then they went to the extreme of negation, then they fell into resemblance. The only difference between the Maturidiyya and the Asha'ira of today, he says, is not a difference. They're not a big difference between the Maturidiyya and the Asha'ira. They're basically the Shaqa'iq al-Asha'ira. You'll find that Sheikh Muhammad Amal Jami, rahimahullah, that he said about the Maturidiyya, that they're not far off from the Asha'ira. He said, rather you'll call they are the Shaqiqat al-Asha'ira. That they're the blood brother of the Asha'ira. To let everyone know how close the Maturidiyya and the Asha'ira are. That they're very, very close. And they do not have that much of a difference between them in their ideologies and belief. But know for sure that the Asha'ira went into the extremes of certain affairs. Number one is, of course, in glorifying the intellect. That's the whole point of their deviance. The whole point of deviance, the majority of the Muslims, deviant sects from the Asha'ira and the Mu'tazila and the Asha'ira, the Jahmiyyah and the Maturidiyya, is them going to the extremes in the affairs of the intellect. How the intellect takes precedence over everything, including a revelation. So they go to the extreme in that affair, and to the point where they said that the revelation is suspect and should not be relied upon in regards to what opposes the intellect. It should not be relied upon. It is suspect. And it's also subjected to what? To fallibility, as they call it. It's fallible. But for that reason, I don't want to get to that all these people have what? Deviated in affairs, or where they went into an extreme. The extreme is what I explained last lesson, which is what? Either being extreme in regards, like we said, to the intellect taking precedence over everything. We know in the religion, the intellect does have its place. But the intellect was only made to what? To understand and comprehend the knowledge and to work by it, not to contradict it or oppose it. As we talked about before, the Shaykh al-Islam wrote this book called Dar Ta'arud al-Aql wal-Naql. The book called Dar Ta'arud al-Aql wal-Naql, which is a tremendous book where Shaykh al-Islam wrote the whole book against the Asha'ira or the Kullabiyya. And it's an encyclopedia. Shaykh al-Islam wrote a refutation called Dar Ta'arud al-Aql wal-Naql. Just the mere title in itself explains everything. It's self-explanatory. Listen to what the title is translated as. It's translated as removing the notion that the revelation, rejecting or removing the notion that the intellect or the mind came to oppose the revelation. That was the name of the book. Removing the notion that that the mind came to oppose the revelation. So he offered the book in order to show how the mind came in order to what? Submit to the revelation, not to oppose it. And that to glorify the intellect and give precedence over the revelation is taking the human mind and the intellect and putting it in a place and glorifying it above what Allah has commanded. And glorification to a type of deity, if you want to say, for lack of better words. Where you made your mind and your intellect over what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, and over what He has commanded and what He has legislated, which is very dangerous. To give the human mind that type of power and that type of domination and that type of what? That type of level is something that is very, very extreme and very dangerous. So Shaykh al-Islam wrote that whole book refuting the notion that the mind came to oppose the revelation. Rather, he wrote the book bringing text to show how the human mind came to submit to the revelation, not to oppose it. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? Taib. So that's the whole deviance of these sects. It's based upon the extremism of the human mind. Extremism in raising the human mind and intellect above its level, giving it some type of esteem or some type of level in which it does not deserve. Especially if one given precedence and raising above the level of revelation is absolute extremism. Absolute extremism. To glorify the mind to that extent where now you give precedence to it over the revelation. That's extremism. Extremism of a mind. where we know that the mind in itself is subjected to fallibility. So how can you put the mind over what? Over what is perfect and what is infallible, such as revelation. So we say, Ya ma'ash al-ikhwa, we gave examples of extremism in both matters, such as in resemblance and also negation. I gave examples of that last class. Where you'll find that the deviant sects either went on one or another type of extreme. Extremism in negation and extremism in affirmation. Negation, when they negated from Allah, His attributes, they went to a whole different level and realm of extremism. When they negated from Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala, what He affirmed for Himself. That type of extremism was as a result of resemblance, as I explained last class. Number one, like we said, the Asha'ira and the Maturidiyya. And I'm focusing on them because they're the majority of the Muslim world today. You'll find that Shaykh al-Islam during his time, his fitna was the Asha'ira. Or the Kullabiyya, if you want to call them, which is better, more befitting for their description, the Kullabiyya. The reason why I focus on the Kullabiyya or the Asha'ira al-Kullabiyya so much is because they resembled Ahlul Sunnah in so many ways. Out of fear that he thought that they would be considered Ahlul Sunnah, which they weren't. And that's a whole other topic that I don't want to talk about. But at any rate, you'll find that Shaykh al-Islam, when he refuted the Asha'ira, he started with these type of facts that I just gave everyone last class. He said that the Asha'ira, that they resemble first, and then they negate it, and then they resemble. That was the 3 steps. They resemble first, then they negate it, and then they resemble. They went to the extremism and the aspect of resemblance. If you was to get a person that's been affected by these type of ideologies and ask him, why do you negate that Allah is above? Because we start with that characteristic. Why do you negate that Allah is above the arsh? Allah has said this about Himself. He created the heavens and the earth and that which between it, then He ascended above the arsh. So what's your reason? They will say, لأننا لا نثبت بأن الله تبارك وتعالى مظروف في السماء حتى تحيط به جهات لا يمكن هذا وعقولنا لا تقبل هذا الشيء. He said, for example, they say that Allah is مظروف في السماء, that Allah is confined and restricted in the heavens, where all the directions around Him confine Him to a certain place that restricts Him and confines Him. And our minds don't accept this. Our minds reject this. If Allah is above the heavens, that necessitates He's confined to a certain place, whereas directions encompass Him and they confine Him and restrict Him. That's the reason why we say that Allah is not above. And they also say, for that is the reason why they say that Allah Ta'ala is not above, because their minds cannot accept or fathom that Allah Ta'ala being above necessitates that the creation confines Him. He's confined within the creation, and our minds reject this. What did they just do when I said this out of my statement? What did they just do? It's in your books. It's simple. What did they just do? They resemble. It's that simple. They resemble. They resemble first, then they fell into the second extremism, which is what? Negation. So the whole reason why they negate is because they what? Resemble. So what they so-called tried to flee away from, they what? They fell into it. What they so-called tried to flee away from, they what? Fell into it. That's why they what? That's why they negated. شبهوا أولا ثم عطلوا ثانيا. They resemble first and then they what? Negated second. You understand, everyone? That is in every characteristic of Allah you can think of. They resemble, then they negate it. Then after they negate it, they resemble. They resembled Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with what? He resembled Allah ta'ala to things that don't exist. That happened with the Jahmiyyah. The Jahmiyyah and the Mu'tazila, of course the Asha'ira have their portion of it. However, the Jahmiyyah totally negated it. They negated all the characteristics. Allah is not above. Allah is not, He did not descend. He did not ascend. Allah does not have a hand. Allah does not have 2 hands. Allah does not have a face, to the end of it. They negated everything, rejected everything. So, they resemble first, negated secondly. The third stage was what? They resembled again. They resembled Allah with things that don't exist. Shabbahu Allah bil ma'dumat. Because I said in last class if he was to give me, or if I was to actually give me a description or accurate description of something that doesn't exist, you would say to me something that's not to the right, not to the left, that's not enough, that's not above, and that's not under. You just gave me an absolute perfect description of something that doesn't exist. That's an exact, accurate description of something that does not exist. That's what the Jahmiyyah says. In regards to the Sha'ira and the Maturidiyya, not only do they negate it, the characteristic, and then they put another warped meaning in its place. So they went another further step. See, the Jahmiyyah just said we negate it and they stopped. The Asha'ira Kullabiyya did something else. They say, no, Allah doesn't have a face. They put another meaning in its place. No, that just means his what? His mercy or his dominance. It does not mean his actual face. It means something else. So they what? So you'll find that they just stick to these three descriptions that we just mentioned. They resembled, then they negated, and then they resemble. They even increased another level where they put another meaning, which is called distortion, which we'll talk about later. So that's extreme in the aspect of what? Of worship. Then in the aspect, if you'll find in the affair of Aqidah, there's no deviant sect except that they have their portion of extremism in some type of aspect of belief. Such as, for example, the Rawafid and the Shia. The Shia fell into extremism. They fell into another type of extremism. Rather, they fell into both aspects of being ifrat and falling into tafrit. Falling into extremism where they deitize Ali. It's extremism. You deitize Ali ibn Abi Talib. And then they fell into both affairs of being too lax also. Where did they become too lax? Started cursing the Sahaba, and rather they declared the majority of them to be kuffar. So you deitize Ali, whereas at the same time, on the other side of the spectrum, you what? You fell into the opposite side of the extreme where you what? Declared majority of the Sahaba to be apostates. And that the majority of them left the fold of Islam, except a couple of them. So they fell into both aspects of both extremes in that aspect of belief. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? So these are different details to explain how extremism affected the deviant sects of the past and of today. And of today, it's the same thing. Let's tie it in together of the deviant sects of today. In regards to the Ikhwanis fall into an extreme where they fall into what? Tafrit. The terrorists, they fall into ifrat. The extremism, the terrorists or jihadists of today fall into what? Extremism. In regards to what? In regards to the nusus of declaring the Muslim rulers and those who obey them kuffar. That's a type of extremism. They took it above the level where they declare Muslims to be non-Muslims. And they're out the fold of Islam until you make their blood and their families and their children and their wealth and their blood lawful. And wreaked havoc in the earth and corruption. And mass hysteria as a result of your belief system and your ideology being extreme. Not correcting or embracing the correct belief of Ahl Sunnah and traversing the moderate path. Where they went into the extremes of certain texts in the Kitaab Sunnah, thinking that certain people are kuffar, and as a result of it, they shed their blood. Whereas you'll find on the opposite side of the spectrum, the Ikhwaniyin, or the people of Jama'at al-Ikhwan, who are called the Muslim Brotherhood, where you'll find that they went to another extreme. They went to the extremes in regards to participating and indulging in non-Muslim what? Non-Muslim politics and affairs and being involved in it. Until the point you'll find that they go to the extreme in this regard, or if you want to say being lackadaisical, if you want to say, or being lax, until the point where they now affirm themselves from being Muslim, but at the same time them being involved inside of affairs they're not realizing that can nullify their Islam, being involved in non-Muslim politics, and also likewise joining different Muslims that are upon deviant ideologies and bringing them in one circle and so-called in the name of unification. This is a type of what? This is a type of what they call tasahul. This is a type of being lax and being, if you want to say, what they call tafrit, of being negligent and lax to the point where you also started to now water down a religion. Where you start to now even join it to the point where you hear some of the deviant sects start saying, not only does it start here, especially with those who have the Muslim Brotherhood, it's to this point where they start calling to the unifications of the religions. That is a severe, and rather that is the most severest of negligence. So they went from one extreme to the next extreme. So you got those who declare declare Muslims and the rulers to be non-Muslims and out the fold of Islam, until you now start to wreak havoc in the land, until you kill innocent people, innocent women and children, until you go to an opposite side of the extreme, which is what? Severe negligence, until you now start to call and join the Muslims who are upon deviant ways. Deviant ways until what? You start to call to now what they call unifications of the religion. And you'll find this call for every deviant sect out there, especially who embark upon the ways of what? Of the Ikhwan al-Muslimin. You'll find that it starts with joining different Muslims that are upon different ideologies, those who make mockery of the Sahaba, who curse the Sahaba, those who are upon Sufiya, those who are upon the Asha'ira on their way, joining them together. What it ultimately now leads down the road is to unifications of the religion. So the circle starts, so-called small, was in their minds with the Muslims, and then you see that the circle starts to grow, until you start to declare the non-Muslims to be our brothers in the religion, which is another type of extreme. So you went from one extreme to a what? Another extreme. That is what you'll always find for people whose principles are not intact. You'll always find them going from one extreme to another extreme all the time. You'll never find it. And every time, every place, you'll find what happened with Saf al-Hawali, Saman Auda. The same thing that happened in Saudi Arabia about 20 years ago, where they were calling the people to, inciting, for the people to now go out against the Muslim ruler, inciting violence, inciting that we need to overthrow the Muslim ruler. Salman Auda, Saf al-Hawali back in the 90s was calling to that. Look to them now, just recently. They went from one extreme to another extreme. Now you found Salman Auda calling to what? Cooperation with the Shia. Went from one extreme to another extreme. You went from now inciting the people of now, going out to what? Fighting the Muslim ruler, killing the Muslim ruler, overthrowing him. He's doing this, he's doing that. He's now allowing music in our country and all these other different shubahat, all these other different types of ambiguities they fill the people's heart up with, until you'll find that years later he went from Salman Auda, jumped to another extreme, which is now calling to what? Let's all join together with the Shia. So how you go from this extreme to this extreme? You went from being on the most utmost extreme of what? Of being too hot to the most utmost extreme of being what? Too cold. That is for people every time who indulge in extremism because of some type of discrepancy in their belief system. It always happens. I've never seen someone that was so extreme, especially from people here in this area, in the tri-state area, that I've seen that he was calling to something very extreme. And now everyone knows the hint that I'm about to give when they were calling to masjid-arrazzaaq. Masjid-arrazzaaq, where you had to pray on the sidewalk, where everybody was outside praying on the sidewalk. There was a time in Philadelphia where people were calling to masjid-arrazzaaq. You can't pray. We're not here. We're not talking about him. He was takfiri. But at any rate, we're not talking about Abu Mahdi. He was takfiri. What we're saying is regards to people in Philadelphia. There was somebody that was calling to say that all the masajid hizbiyah are masajid-al-dirar. It's not permissible to pray in them. Rather, you have to pray on the sidewalk. For the time of the salat, you found that some of the common folk for the Muslims will pray on the sidewalk. This main individual that was calling to this, you know where he is today? With the Ikhwanis. So those masajid that you were claiming to be Ikhwanis, not to be permissible to pray in, here you are now with them. Joining them and giving lectures in their masjid now. You clear? You understand what I'm saying, everyone? When you're extreme in a certain affair, the negative effect, you're going to eventually be extreme in a what? In another. You're going to go back to the opposite. Because you were never what? Moderate. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? Is it clear what I'm saying so far? You sure, okay? Oh, Cameron, you just shaking your head. Yeah, shaking your head. Huh? I just like messing with you, that's all. Huh? That's it. Main thing is if you understand, you go from one extreme to another extreme. You'll never stop. If you don't now actualize, if you want, rectify these matters, whereas your foundation has been rectified in regards to what we're speaking about now, you'll always jump from one extreme to another. I never found anybody who was extreme in a religion, extreme as far as in their belief system, except they always ended up on the opposite side of the spectrum of being in another type of deviance. We're talking about the usul in regard to Aqidah. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? طيب. Another type of extreme is extreme in ibadah. We talked about being extreme in the aspect of worship. Being extreme in the affair of what? Of ibadat. How's a person extreme in ibadat? I think that's clear. Especially what happened with the what? Especially with the Khawarij of the past. As the Prophet ﷺ had talked about, that they started to perform an abundance of worship to the point where they started becoming amazed at themselves and looking down upon the Sahaba. To the point where the Prophet ﷺ has said, تَحْقِرُونَ صَلَاتَكُمْ إِلَى صَلَاتِهِمْ وَقِرَاءَتَكُمْ إِلَى قِرَاءَتِهِمْ يَمْرُقُونَ مِنَ الدِّينِ كَمَا يَمْرُقُ السَّهْمُ مِنَ الرَّمِيَّةِ وَلَنْ يَعُودُوا فِيهِ فَإِذَا خَرَجُوا مِنْهُ فَلَنْ يَعُودُوا فِيهِ. And the narration, well, we know that the Khawarij of the past, it was from their characteristics that they were known to do an abundance of worship. They was known to stay up all night and being devoted in worship until they became amazed at themselves. Until even when they were fought and when they were killed, they used to, from their characteristics, they used to have real huge bulging prostration marks to show how much of worship they used to perform. The abundance of worship they used to perform, and how their hands were swollen, and how they used to look very, very tired. They used to have tired, they used to ring around their eyes, as it says in the description of the Khawarij, and they had bulging prostration marks that were very big, and their hands were swollen from all the worship they used to do, and to the point where the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said that you will look down upon your worship in comparison to theirs. You will look down upon your recitation in regards. You will look down upon your recitation in regards to what? Theirs. They will read the Quran. Of course, it won't surpass their throats, meaning they won't understand it, and they won't have the proper understanding of it, and they will leave out the religion just as what? Just as an arrow goes out the bow. The point of the matter is, you'll find that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ has said that from their descriptions that they were very what? Extreme in the affairs of the ibadah. To the point where he said that the Sahaba, you are going to look down to your worship to theirs. And we know the Sahaba were the greatest of those who are drawing close to Allah. To let you know of how much of extreme worship they used to perform. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? So as a result of it, they will what? Start looking down upon the Sahaba. Until the point where they declared the Ali ibn Abi Talib to be an unbeliever or disbeliever. And likewise, Uthman ibn Affan to be a disbeliever. And also the Sahaba, to the point where they started looking down upon them. So not only were they afflicted with having misunderstanding of Kitab and Sunnah, but they also added on to it where they were amazed at themselves. Amazed at themselves, and to the point, like we said, they fell into not only being deviated, but being the dogs of hell. So we know the Prophet ﷺ had directed a moderate course in regards to ibadat. What did he say? He made it clear. He said that I pray and then I sleep. He said it to Salman al-Farisi clearly in that hadith. I what? I pray and I what? Sleep. I what? I pray and then I don't pray, I pray and I don't pray. And then I what? I fast and then I what? Break my fast. And I also marry women. Whoever leaves out my sunnah is not from me. You'll find that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, you'll find narrations. They say he used to fast so much to the point where they thought he would never break his fast. And they said he would be a period of time where he what? He extended. Not fasting to the point we thought we would say in our minds that, is he going to fast? To let you know that the Messenger of Allah was teaching what? Moderation in the religion. Not to be extreme in the affairs of ibadat. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? Is it clear? And we know that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ was the best example for humanity. Is it clear, everyone? طيب. So you'll find that the ibadat, to the point, the Khawarij, like we talked about before, ya ma'ashal ikhwa, went this type of extremism, led them down the road of deviance and destruction. To the point where not only were they deviated and became the dogs of the hellfire, but they also started declaring the Sahaba to be what? People who don't understand, people that also are lazy, people who now don't have no understanding into their recitation in comparison to ours. Ours is better than theirs. All this is also a type of what? Extremism. Especially in the affairs of ibadat. Especially in the affairs of worship. The affairs of worship, ya ma'ashal ikhwa, as we'll talk about, if a person starts off extreme, one should start off doing things slowly and moderately, working himself up gradually to a level. You can never just jump up in something. For example, tonight I'm going to pray all night. Just jump right into something that you're not used to accustomed to doing. Rather starting bit by bit and also taking a moderate way and to build yourself up to a certain level. That is the best way to do something gradually and work your way up. Doing something small and being consistent with it. It's better than doing something all at once for a long period of time, and then you never do it again after some days. To pray all night, and then you meant, for example, the next 10, 20 days, you don't do it at all. In comparison, if you did one small deed consistently, that would be more beloved to Allah than you doing that one deed for all those hours. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? To the point with the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ where he said, وَإِنَّ الْمُنْبَتْ لَا قَطَعَ لَا أَرْضًا قَطَعَ. That's the narration. إِنَّ الْمُنْبَتْ لَا أَرْضًا قَطَعَ وَلَا أَرْضًا أَبْقَى. That's it. But the message of Allah ﷺ, he said that the riding beast, or the one who's in a riding beast, who's extreme, he's saying basically the riding beast that rides extremely fast. That's embarking upon some type of journey. And he gets on his riding beast and starts to go extremely fast. So he says in the hadith, he said, La ardan qata'. He said the land or what he's trying to traverse upon, or that road that he's trying to travel upon, or the destination he's trying to reach, he'll never reach it. He'll never reach it. He'll never cover the distance that he was supposed to. And on top of that, he says, Wala ardan abqa. He said there's no earth or no land that he's going to finish. Meaning that his riding beast is going to eventually what? Be tired out and stay right there. You're going to exhaust out your riding beast, and you're not going to complete your journey. So two things will happen. You didn't finish the distance, you didn't cover the distance because you started off extremely fast. So you got a now 2 or 3 hour journey. You got a horse riding extremely fast for 3 hours straight. Is it going to reach this distance? No, it isn't. It's eventually going to what? It's going to tire out. So you didn't cover your journey, the distance of the journey, nor did you what? Nor did the riding beast also likewise what? He did not finish the journey because it's now exhausted and it stops right there. You tired it out, you rendered it weary, it will not be able to complete the journey. The message of Allah was given a resemblance to this in regards to the person that enters in an affair, especially of worship, extremely what? As if a person, he gives the example of that as if a person is going very fast in a race. As soon as he starts off, when he's supposed to be moving what? Gradually, moderately. To the point where he'll what? He'll either fall off. He'll either what? He'll either break down, his riding beast will break down, or he will never finish the distance that he was supposed to what? He was supposed to cover and complete. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? So the message of Allah gave these examples. He's given an example of to move gradually. There's a profound statement by the great Imam al-Albani. The Shaykh al-Albani mentioned he said, طريق الله طويل ونحن نسلك فيه كسلحفات وسلحفات وليس الهدف وليس غرضنا أن يصل إلى نهاية الطريق ولكن الغرض والهدف أن نموت على الطريق. He said a very tremendous statement. Shaykh al-Albani, it's a known statement, famous statement it is. Listen what the great Imam Muhammad al-Sadin al-Albani said, a profound, tremendous statement. He said, طريق الله طويل. The road of Allah is long. وَنَحْنُ نَسْلُكُ فِيهِ كَسُلْحُفَاتٍ. And we embark upon it like a turtle when we're taking our time. Take our time. He said, وَنَحْنُ نَسْلُكُ فِيهِ كَالسُّلَحْفَاتِ. He says, and the goal of ours is not to reach the end of the road. However, the goal of ours is to die upon it. Is it clear? I'll say it again. He said the road of Allah is long. And we traverse in it like a turtle, taking our time gradually. Is it clear? Our goal or Gharad or hadaf, our goal is not to reach the end of the road. Our goal is to die upon the road, upon the path, excuse me. It's not to reach the end of the path, but however, our goal is to what? Die upon it. Is it clear? And we know the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "La yushad ad-din ahadun illa ghalaba." There's no one that's extreme in a religion except it will what? It will subdue him, it will beat him. That it will what? It will eventually, it will take him over. He will beat. The religion will beat. While you will be now tired, and you will also be fed up, and you will think to yourself, now this is too hard. You understand, everyone? So in affairs, that, especially the affairs of the hereafter, especially if you have a goal, embark upon it gradually. Not to be too slow to the point we don't do nothing at all, or not to be too fast where you're now putting something upon your body or yourself that you cannot bear. But however, doing it in a moderate way, building yourself up and up slowly until you reach a certain what? A certain level. And to take your time. And it's better for you to do an affair that's small and you do it consistently, whereas you do something that's huge and it's inconsistent. Is it clear, everyone? Fine. So this is in regards to affairs, extremism, and worship. And we know that the Prophet ﷺ had talked about and condemned the people of the book because of these type of what? Extremism. Such as the Sufis. You'll find that they were the ones that took the so-called extremism of being, if you want to say, introverted and isolated from the people, thinking this is a affair that is praiseworthy. That the person basically now, you'll find that the Sufis go to an extreme where they say, number one, we have to be extreme in worship and affairs of worship. A lot of their followers, where they now isolate themselves and become introverted in the place where they devote upon worship, and we do not busy ourselves with going out and now working for our families and taking care of our children. Where we know that that type of behavior and that type of belief or this type of conduct is what? Is resembling the Christians in which Allah condemned them in His book. And that monastery practice that they used to what? Or rather they innovated in. The monastery practice of being a monk, introverted, just devoted to worship, not going out and getting married or what? Or starting a family or taking care of them or having a job and doing in such and such, well, haluma jarra, as they say, well, such and such. You understand? That type of way that the Sufis are practicing is the way of the Christians in which Allah condemned. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? As being a celibate is rejected in a religion, it's an innovative practice. Has no connection with the religion at all, rather it was from the innovative practices of the Christians from before, as we talked about. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? And you'll find, like we said, in every time and every place, that you'll find that those who involve themselves in these type of matters, as a result of it, you'll find, just like we said in the hadith, they cannot traverse and complete the path, nor as a result of it, they will what? Finish the journey at all, reach their goal. At all. You will never reach it. Because you're a human being, and human being, Allah Ta'ala has put in them the natural desire to want inclined to be with the opposite. If you want to say, let's like put the words, opposite sex, to start family, to start children, and to what? To raise a family, and to what? And to also likewise continue his lineage after he dies. And the only way that happens is if he has what? He has kids and he has children. So for that reason, you'll find, this is extremism in worship that's condemned in the religion. As Allah Ta'ala says in His book about the Christians, as He said about them, we said, وَرَهْبَانِيَّ ابْتَدَعُوهَا مَا كَتَبْنَاهَا عَلَيْهِمْ إِلَّا ابْتِغَاءَ مَرْضَاتِ اللَّهِ وَمَا رَعَوْهَا حَقَّ رِعَايَتِهَا وَآتَيْنَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنْهُمْ أَجْرَاهُمْ وَكَثِيرٌ مِنْهُمْ فَاسِقُونَ. Allah Ta'ala says in His book, He says that the monastery practice of them being introverted, devoted in worship, is something that they innovated, that we did not bind them upon them to practice, except to seek the face of Allah. And despite of them making it an obligation upon them to do this, they were not able to fulfill it. And we gave those who believed their reward, and the majority of the people of the book are fasiqun. They're all sinners and transgressors against the boundaries of Allah. So you'll find this is extremism of what? In the aspect of worship. They think that this is worship, but in actuality, it's oppression upon your what? Upon your body and upon yourself. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? So that's extremism in worship. fasting sometimes, breaking your fast sometimes, saying at night, praying sometimes, and also resting sometimes, and also marrying women. The Prophet ﷺ made it clear, whoever desires other than my sunnah, that he's not from me. That's tremendous. For a person now to be cut off from being ascribed to the Messenger of Allah ﷺ is something that's tremendous. It's something severe. So that's the reason why you'll find this is extremism in the affairs of worship. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? طيب. What about in affairs of what? Affairs now of transactions and dealings. That's similar to what we just mentioned. That's similar to what we just mentioned now. You'll find that there are people out there, similar to the Sufis, they wear clothes, even though some of them might have a lot of money. But so you'll find that they wear clothes with holes in it in order to show and display some type of aestheticism. They abstain from worldly things, even though they have the ability to buy clothes that don't have holes in it. Or you'll find that they wear or they display some type of manner where it shows that they're disheveled, or that I'm lowly, or that I don't have much, even though that's not the case. That's an extremism. It's a type of extremism. You understand, everyone? So they try to now show called or display some type of zuhd, some type of artificial zuhd, some fake zuhd that they're now showing the people, even though they have the ability to clearly wear other than that. And you'll find the opposite extreme of those who are on the opposite side of the spectrum. As I'm going to talk about that now. The opposite side of the spectrum where people now you'll find that they go to the extremes of now busying themselves in the aspect of work until they leave off affairs of the religion. They're so engrossed inside of their jobs and work, whereas they now leave off what? The religion. So now being religious or being involved in religious affairs and just totally being immersed and engrossed inside of what? Your work is also something that's not what? That's also something that's condemned. The best thing, like we said, we don't be like the Sufis where you're now isolated in a monastery, so-called, embarking upon worship all day long, which is condemned, and which is also likewise impermissible, especially if you now have a wife and children that you have to take care of. As we'll find that Ibn Khattab, even during the time of the Sahaba, for some of them, who used to stay in the masjid all day long, that he used to tell them, he said, he used to investigate. Do you have a family to take care of? Do you have children? And we'll remove them from the masjid and say, go find your sustenance. Get out. Which is to let you know that what? The Sahaba were the greatest of a role model to be followed. Despite of that, what? They condemned the one who wanted to now so-called stay in the masjid all day long, from morning to the Isha, all day long. You don't have something you do. You don't have a family to take care of. You don't have kids. I'm not talking about your day off. That's something different. We're talking about a person who you see his pattern. This is what you do every day. You have a job. You have someone to take care of. You don't have a wife. You don't have a mother to take care of. You don't have some worldly affairs. Allah Ta'ala made our what? Our religion to be in the middle course. We embark upon things that are worldly because we need them, and at the same time we don't leave off the religion. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? So you'll find that the people who are immersed in these affairs of worldly, they go to another extreme. Another type of extreme, Caden. Another type of extreme, you with me? Another type of extreme where they are immersed in their work to the point that even some of them get fooled by shaitan, where they declare everything to be halal now. Like some of our merchants who declare now, you'll find them selling pork and selling intoxicants in their stores. They went from one extreme with the deviance of the Sufis to another extremism, being negligent to the point where you're selling what? Intoxicants and pork meat and music and all this other nonsense. With the excuse that what? It's only for the non-Muslims. And we know that the ulama have said whether you sell it to non-Muslims or Muslims, it's all impermissible. And it's not permissible for you to profit off that money, and that money is unlawful. Whether you sell it to a Muslim or a non-Muslim. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? So these are all examples and scenarios of what? Of extremism. How shaitan can get you to fall into one of these pictures. One of these scenarios, shaitan wants you to get you to fall in some type of extremism and being neglectful in some type of way. It is very, very hard to maintain the middle path. That is what you constantly ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and every time you recite Surah Al-Fatiha. When you recite Surah Al-Fatiha, You are asking Allah to bestow upon you those who He has bestowed upon Him His blessing. فَالنَّبِيِّينَ وَالصِّدِّيقِينَ وَالشُّهَدَاء وَالصَّالِحِينَ وَحَسُنَتْ أُولَٰئِكَ رَفِيقًا. You are now asking Allah Ta'ala to grant you the tawfiq to be firm upon the path of those who are what? That He bestowed His blessings upon from the prophets and the messengers and the people of Tawheed of the past. Who were? The people who are moderate. That's what you're saying, and every time you recite Surah Al-Fatiha. And despite of that, you still see how Allah Ta'ala leads people astray. Even though they recite it, because they don't really truly know what they're reciting. And they don't know what they're asking Allah for. So you find, ya ma'ashal ikhwa, these are different types of what? Extremes. Extremism in a lot of ways. In belief system, in worship, and in dealings. Like we said, even in dealings, in transactions. How you can be what? Extreme. Especially you'll find, I'll talk about that later. But in regards to extremism in the aspect of Sufis, you'll find, like we said, in the aspect of dealings, business trade, dealings, and business ventures. You'll find that the people are so what? Fall to extreme of negligence to the point they think everything is halal. Everything goes. Then you'll find the opposite side of the stream. You'll find that Muslims out there that thinks everything is haram. Everything's haram, everything's haram, everything's haram. Everything you turn, that's haram. You can't eat that. You can't eat, you can't drink that. You can't drink Pepsi. It's haram. Yahi, you have to bring your dalil, be careful. A Muslim doesn't rush to say something's haram, nor is a rush to say something's halal. Takes his time. In the origin of, in the aspect of affairs of mu'amalat, everything is upon hil, everything is halal until there's a text to prove that it's haram. That's the origin. Yes, it is. That's a qaida. Everything is upon hil in the aspect and affairs of mu'amalat, in transactions and dealings, until you have now a text that clearly tells you that it's what? Unlawful. Once the text is there, makes it clear, you have to what? Apply it. Is it clear, everyone? So don't let shaitan take you from one extreme to the next. The majority of the Muslims, you'll find that they're extreme in certain affairs, but they're picky and choosy what they're extreme with, especially from our communities. You'll find they select and choose where they're strict at, and they'll select and choose what they're what? They're negligent at. I'm strict here, but I'm negligent here. I cover my father sister, covers from top to the toe, which is good, which is praiseworthy. Then you'll find on the side of her mouth, she's taking pictures of herself on social media. And you're like, how do you have that? And then you have this. What are you selecting and choosing what you stream at? Or what you're practicing, you're religious with? You have to now what? If you're going to do something one way, do it all the way. Don't be choosy in things that you're now laid back and negligent with now. You can't be now like this, covered from head to toe, and all this, and now on the side of your mouth, you have now pictures of yourself on social media with makeup on. As I've certain people in my family, I've seen this. And you have brothers also likewise. I don't talk to women, I don't talk to this. But then on the side, you find brothers with pictures of themselves on social media. It's like, which one are you? You're like this way in front of the people, but you're lax on this side, in this aspect. Brothers, if you're practicing a way, you be one way. Then you find brothers, I've seen talk to brothers before, where you find that he doesn't let his wife do anything. Can't go out the house, you cannot. What? Come out the house, of course, we know that's from the religion. That she cannot leave the house without her permission, of course. That's from the religion, that's established. But how is it that you have girlfriends? How is that good for you, though? You cannot be now one way, and then another way you're like this. You understand, everyone? You can't now blind upon a person to do this, and you're like this in this way in front of the people, but behind closed doors, you are talking to one, doing things you shouldn't be doing. If you're one way, you're one way. Don't play around with the religion. Is it clear I'm saying, everyone? Stay on what? With his path and what's his middle course. Don't play games. Don't be like this in front of the people. Then you got pictures of your children and yourself on social media. Is it clear what I'm saying? Don't say be strict and say, okay, you can't do this, you can't do that. Whereas on the opposite side of the extreme, listen, I don't want you talking to your brother. I don't want you talking to your father. I don't like him. He doesn't come over my house. Then on the side, you have some girls on your phone that you shouldn't be talking to, and you're doing things with women on the side that you shouldn't be. You cannot be what? This way, and then on the other side, you're this way, And then you expect when you get caught that someone is going to respect you and say, what is it? Which one are you? What's your face? I don't understand. Which one are you? Who are you? Who are you? I got to figure you out. Which I don't have time to. You understand, everyone? So that's the reason why we say what? Be moderate in your affairs, brothers and sisters. Be moderate. Moderation is also what is important in the aspect of usul, and the aspect of the ibadat, and the aspect of mu'amalat and dealings and transactions. Be in the middle course and learn your religion. Is it clear what I'm saying? All these different types of extremes have destroyed those from the past. Whether it be in usul, whether it be in ibadat, or whether it be in mu'amalat. Purpose would say even a mu'amalat that destroyed people from those from the past? Yes, it did. Yes. You'll find that the message of Allah to inform about the Jews, what they did in the aspects of some of their sales transactions, what they used to do. In regards to the pig meat, that they would melt it down and they would do a trick, and then they would what? Then they would try to sell it in a very slick way, and they would benefit from its profit. In which the message of Allah said, that was one of the reasons why Allah humiliated them. Which is what? A type of what? Extremism in the aspect of what? Transactions and dealings. Be very careful. So stop here, inshallah. Talk about the next hadith later. I've seen this with a lot of people. SubhanAllah, you see that? It's like I don't understand. It says sister does this. Then you say, see this on the side of her mouth. You see pictures of this her children. It's like, well, which one is it? I don't get it. I don't take pictures on them. Why is that there on social media? Why is that there? Alhamdulillah, brother House Somali gave a very good statement. He said in one of his tweets, he says, for those who take pictures on social media of yourself and your children, he said, don't be sorry if someone takes your picture and does black magic on you. If somebody takes a picture and does magic on your picture. Because that's all they need is your image. And they'll do some magic on you and your children. That's all they need is your image. Don't blame no one except yourself. We live in days and times, people are miserable. So they say, now you want to take a picture of you and your husband smiling? And we know people out here be like, oh, you think you Miss Happy now, huh? Okay. Snapchat, snap your, what they call, screenshot it, bang. And I'm going to do some magic on it now. Then you wonder why you and your husband and wife now arguing now, and why you don't like her anymore. And then why now your marriage is going to shot to kaput now. And why you don't desire to be with her no more. And why she don't desire to be with you no more. That's all. It could be, like I said. And we know those are all the effects of magic. And magic is real. Yes. So you guys want to take a chance on that? Go on social media. You take pictures. These are the things that happen. Don't blame no one except yourself. Stop putting these pictures on social media. So when someone now do some magic on you, some magic on your wife, or some magic on your baby, don't blame no one except yourself. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? So all they need is your image. That's it. They think these things are cute. It's not cute. If you're happy in your marriage, it's so bad to the point where in this community society, you can say it seems that you have to hide your happiness in your family. You can't even show that you're happy in your relationships these days. You kind of like have to kind of play it off. Somebody say, what's going on with you and your household? I'm okay. I'm all right. I got little problems here and there, but I'm all right. Even though you might know in yourself, I'm happy, I'm good. But you can't tell them that. You understand, everyone? Especially sisters. Well, sisters, I feel sorry for them even more. Whew. They better not ever show they happy in a marriage with anyone these days. You happy in your marriage? What's going on in your household? I'm okay. I got my own problems. That's what you need to say. I got my own problem. No one in the back of your mind. Alhamdulillah, my husband's a good man. Everybody has their shortcomings. But ultimately, alhamdulillah, I have a good household. But she can't say that. Because there's always a woman, what you mean you all happy? What you mean there's no problem? What type of problem? I have my own problems just like everybody else. Alhamdulillah. And shut your mouth. That's it. Any questions about the lesson?